soft-spoken Sudoku video. It's been a while since my last recording. I was busy with finishing up school and starting a new job, but I'm ready to get back into recording some more of these. If you haven't been here before, then welcome, and if you have, welcome back. I find Sudoku very relaxing to do, and I've been doing them while I've not been recording, but I hope you find this relaxing as well. So we're going to be doing another puzzle in the Miracle Sudoku app on Steam. And let's see, which one should we do? Let's try out a non-consecutive sandwich Sudoku. I'll tell you what that means here in a second. After it loads, of course. Alright, so the rules of the Sudoku, the normal variant, if you don't know them, our goal is to place all of the digits 1 through 9 in each box, row, and column. And that's basically just how you do normal Sudoku, but as you can see, we only have 4 numbers, so we're going to need some more rules to be able to do that. Now, how this non-consecutive rule works is that if we have, let's say, this 9 here, and we want to place an 8 in this box, we cannot place an 8 next to the 9 because it's consecutive with 9. Similarly, with this 5, we can't place a 4 around the 5, and we also can't place a 6 around the 5. And with the sandwich rule, we have to place, looking at these numbers, the 0 means that the digits between 1 and 9, wherever they're placed, have to add up to this number. So this 0 tells us there will be a 1 or a 9 in one of these two spots. And this 33 tells us that wherever our 1 or our 9 is, all the numbers on the inside have to add up to 33. I think we'll go ahead and start with looking at the 33, because there's only one combination, which means we'll either have a 1 and a 9 here, or a 1 and a 9 there. But either way, we have to place a 4 inside here. And that's very restricted because of this 3 and 5. We cannot place a 4 in any of these spots because it's consecutive with the 3 and the 5. So we can have a 4 here or a 4 here. And with this 6, we can have a 6 not next to this 5, so it can be here or one of these spots. Now with the, let's see, there's no real good restrictions left that we can look at, but I'll go ahead and fill in the rest of them. So we don't have a 2, which means if we have a 1 and a 9 there, the 2 has to be on the outside over here. Or if they're there, the 2 has to be over here. So we can have a 2 or a 1 and a 9 in those. And we need a 7 in any of these spots. And an 8 in any of these these spots. However, looking at this, I want to make sure I have all the numbers in here. So we have a 3, we looked at our 4s, a 5, a 6, and 7, 8. So this 7, 8 pair here tells us that we cannot have a 7 or an 8 over here. So we can go ahead and get rid of those. Now let's start looking somewhere else. Perhaps we should note that a 4 can only go in one of these two spots, because the 3 and the 5 both block it from those. And actually, looking at this 0 here, that tells us we have the 1 there, but our non-consecutive rule tells us it can't be next to the 2. So we can go ahead and place a 1 right here in box 6. Now, because we can't have a 1 over here anymore, we know we're going to have a 9. And we can get rid of the 9s over here and say that we know we have a 1 over here. And not quite sure where we should go next. The best place to start with sandwich Sudoku is usually the large numbers like this, or the very small numbers. But we weren't given very much at the beginning, so it makes it a little bit more difficult. I guess we can go ahead and fill in the rest of this box with the candidates and see if anything useful comes from that. So we will have a 1 in one of those two spots, because those two are blocked by the 2. We have a 2, a 3, we already showed where the 4s can go. Now a 5, and we can have a 6 in one of these 3 positions. And I don't think we have, well, we have one limitation on the 7. So I'm going to go ahead and use the other notation to fill these in real quick. So because we can have a 6 in only these 3 spots, we cannot put a 7 in the middle, because that makes it so we would not be able to place any of those 6s. So we need a 7 in one of these 4 positions. And we need an 8 in one of these 3 positions. Let's look at this 20. What I'm looking for now is if we can block out any of the middle sections. We can't with this 20, because we can have something in the middle and over there, because 3 numbers is a possibility. However, with this 25, we need to have at least 4 numbers. So if we tried placing 1 there, we could not place a 1 or a 9 anywhere to be able to fill in 4 numbers. So we can put a little X there to say that no 1s or 9s can go there, which is useful to take note of. I'll go ahead and do that with this row as well, since we have our 1 and our 9 in there. And down here. Oh, it seems I've overlooked this 7 and 8 earlier. And we can actually get rid of that because of the pair. So we can go ahead and place a 6 here. Now, let's look at this 19. Since we know we have to have a 1 in one of these 2 spots, we can sort of try and figure out where our 9 can go. So, we can't have a 9 over here. We've already put those there. And it has to be at least 3 away. So the farthest distance we can make with 3 would be this. So we can't have 1 in those 2 spots. And we will have to have a 9 in one of these 2 spots. Another thing you can do with the non-consecutive rule is rule out some of these possibilities. If all of the numbers are consecutive, it's not possible for length 2 or 3 consecutive digits to be placed in a way that they won't limit one of them out. So like, obviously the 6 and the 7 we cannot place next to each other, so we can roll that out. And for this 12, we cannot do a 3, 4, or 5 next to each other. So we would either have a 3, 4, 5, a 3, 5, 4, or just no matter how we place them, there's going to be numbers next to each other that aren't allowed. So we can roll that one out. It's a little bit more tricky because we do not have a lot of clues up here. Now, usually you will get in normal sandwich Sudoku, you do get a rule for every spot, but this one's a little bit more limited. Now, even though these are consecutive, we would still be able to place them next to each other because there's more than 4 of them, or more than 3 of them actually. For example, we could do a 3, 5, 7, 4, and 6 without breaking the consecutive rule, so we can't rule that one out. Oops. I'm just looking for any other place to get started because I'm kind of stuck on this one. I imagine the difficulty of this puzzle with it being, can't remember if it was 7 or 8 stars, but I imagine the beginning will be the most difficult in placing something that'll help us work through the rest of it, but these are all handcrafted puzzles, meaning someone came up with this idea and wasn't generated by a computer, so there's probably one specific thing we need to find that will tell us this is how we solve this Sudoku. is that if we have a 9 here, we will have to have a 1 here. And if we have a 9 here, we will have to have a 1 here. Actually, I don't know that that's true. I guess if we have a 1 here, we can have a 9 there or there. But if we have a 9 here, this 1 has to be there. We cannot have that and that, so let's look at the possibilities for this. So if it is a distance of 3 right here with the 9 there, that tells us that we will have a 1 here. And this will contain an 8. Will contain a 4, 7, or a 5, 6. Now, looking at that though, let's say we did have this 9 and this 1. I'll color them in. If we had this 5, 6, 8, the 8 would have to go in the middle to split up the 5 and the 6. However, if we put an 8 here, we cannot have a 5 or a 6 there. So that will not work. And if we have this, we would have to put a, if we tried the 4, 7, 8, we'd have a similar issue where we can't put a 4 in the middle. So actually, we cannot have a 9 here, which means that we must have a 9 right here. Now, it's still possible for the 1 to be here, and we'll have a 9 here, but we don't have a rule telling us whether or not in this column if we can put a 1 there or not. It could just be a hidden 0 up there, and we can, but we don't know that, so. But what we do know is that we can start narrowing down some of these possibilities. For example, let's look at this, the 3 possibility again. So if we were to have a 1 here, we would need the 4, 7, 8, or the 5, 6, 8. So once again, we would need an 8 in the middle here, and a 5, 6, which is possible. Or we would need a 4 in the middle with a 7, 7 here, and an 8 here. Because we couldn't put the 8 there, that would be next to the 9. So it looks like both of those are possible, so we can't rule out, determine where the 1 will be. One thing we can do though, is we can get rid of this 8 in the middle, which I should have noticed earlier, but because this has to be a 7 or an 8, if we put an 8 here, that would block out the 8 and the 7 from the consecutive rule. So let's get rid of this 8. Now we need an 8 in one of these 2 positions. It's again getting a little bit stuck, but that's okay. I'm not in a hurry, just trying to figure it out. Doesn't really matter how long it takes, as long as we just relax I should have noticed this earlier, but it's been a while since I've done the non-consecutive rule, so I'm a little bit rusty on some of the things that it introduces. But down here, we have to have a 1 in one of these two positions. So, because of that, we cannot have a 2 in any of these two spots, because it would block out the 1. So we can actually go ahead and place our 1 right here. And we can place the 4, the 9, and the 2. And block out 1s and the rest of those. Or, sorry, block out the 1 or 9 combo and the rest of those. So now we can rule out this 4, 7, 8 combo because we cannot place a 4 right here anymore. And let's see about this. We have an 8, 6, 5. We can no longer have that one either. So we'd have to place the 8 to separate the 5 and the 6. But a 5 and a 6 are both blocked here. The 5 by the 4 and the 6 by the 6. So now we know this has to be a length of 4 in the middle. And we can place a 1 right here. And we can block the 1, 9 positions in that column. So let's see. I don't think we'll get anywhere for now with the rest of this. But it should be noted that if it does contain a 4, we will have to place the 4 there. Let's take a look at this 25 again. Now that some of this has been narrowed down, it looks like it's still possible to have a 4 length down here. Sometimes when you block out an outer column or row, you can even more so begin to determine, like we did with blocking out this. For example, if we didn't just block out this column right here, we would have been able to say that, well, it has to be at least 4, so we can no longer have that gap of 4 and block it out. But looks like that's not going to be useful right now, so don't need to go more into it. Oh, I've sort of ignored this 0 clue here, but that tells us since we can't have a 1 there, it has to go there. We can block out the rest of them. Now, with this 13 clue, it has to be 2 or 3, which means that we will have a 9 over here. And that, therefore, it can't be in these spots. And this 9 actually blocks out the 8 here. You can tell I'm rusty with my non-consecutive rule because I would have seen that as soon as I placed the 1 in the 9. Or could have, rather. So, since we can only have a 7 in one of these two positions, what that does is tells us there cannot be a 6 right here. It would block out both of them. So we can go ahead and place a 4 there. And that removes this possibility. Now I'm going to check some of these with consecutive numbers, such as this one. So we have our 4 here. We need to split the 6 and the 7 by a 2. Now, we could do a 2 here 7, 6. Now, can we place a 7 here with this? If we had a 7 here, we would still need the 3 and the 5. However, they're both blocked from this position by the 4. So we actually can't place a 7 here in either of those. So we can go ahead and say this is a 6. Now we do have this figured out which one it is. And we can place them actually. The 7 can't go here. Had to go there with the 2. Once again, scanning to see if there's anything else useful that I can find, but nothing at the moment. Perhaps let's look at what we have left in here. So we need to place a 3, a 5, and an 8 still. So we can actually place the 8 here because it's blocked from these two spots by the 9 and the 7. As for the 3 and the 5, we don't know yet, but it would be useful to just note that that's a pair and put another pair over here. So we still need a 4 and a 6 up here. And it's actually useful because we need a 5 in row 5. Now, where can we place it? It's not blocked out by this or by this. However, if we place it here or here, either of those positions rule out both of the candidates in row 4 because of the non-consecutive rule, so we must place the 5 here. Now we have a 3 and an 8 left to place, and we can place our 3 here because of this 2, and our 8 here. That actually lets us place the 4 and the 6 as well. So we're almost done with this entire middle section, but we don't have much for the top and the bottom yet. Maybe let's look at some of these. So if we have a distance of 3 to travel, well, I'll get back to that in a second, but first we have these two 5s, so we actually can't have a 5, 8. So we can go ahead and place our 9, and now we do have a distance of 3 to travel. So because of this, let's look at this 2, 5, 6. So this 5 right here would place a 5 there. And we know that because 5 is next to 6, we'd have to place a 6 here. However, the 7 blocks that possibility, so we can't do that. Now, with this 3, 4, 6, we would have to place the 6 in between the 3 and the 4, but it cannot go next to this 5, so we can rule out that as well. This 2, 3, 8, we would have to place the 8 in the middle, a 3 next to this 1, because the 7 blocks a 7 there, and the 1 blocks a 2 there. So we could place a 4 here, and we would have to place a 7 here, and the 2 here. So no matter what, our 2 will be in this position. I'm back at the main menu now. I'm going to take a quick break to get some water and use the restroom, but let's get back into this puzzle. So we were just looking at this 13 clue. We haven't quite narrowed down which one it is yet, but we know where they can go. And we also know that we do not have a 5 or a 6 in there. Now we can't have a 5 over here, but we can have them here, here. And I don't think I'm going to note that down because it's not quite useful enough. Not yet, anyways. Let's look at this 0 clue. What this tells us is that we have to have a 1 and a 9 directly next to each other. However, we cannot have them over here because we have some squares blocked off. We also cannot have them right here because we'd have to put another there, and that would be 3 1s and 9s in this box. So we know that we will have a 1 or a 9 here, and either a 1 here or a 1 and 9 there. But we don't need to note that. This is good enough right here for now. Now, looking back at this 25 clue, let's see if there's anything else that we can do with that. Well, one thing we do know is that we would have to have a 9 over here, because we can't have just spots over here filled. We'll have to bridge this gap with a 9 over here, leaving a 1 somewhere down here. Just trying to figure out if there's anyone that we can rule out. For example, if we have a 1 here and a 9 here, well, if we have a 1 here, we would have to have the 9 here because we can't place it here, and it's only a 4 or 5 gap. So we would need a 4, 6, 7, 8 in the middle. And since there's a few consecutives, what we do know is that we would have to have a 4 splitting one of the groups. And so, for example, we could have a 6, 8, 4, 7, or an 8, 6, 4, 7. But either way, we would have to have a 4 in the middle somewhere. So if we do have a 4, it would have to be here. Now, that would leave an 8 over positions. And then we could not have a 7 here. We'd have to place our 6 there. And a 7 over here. Now, I think I saw something, but let me go ahead and fill in those numbers I was talking about so we can take a closer look. So let's say we had a 1 and a 9. We said we'd have to have a 4 here, an 8 here, a 6 here, and a 7 here. Now, this is actually not possible, and I'll tell you why. Because let's look at where a 5 can go now. Well, this 5 blocks it out over here, and this 4 and this 6. If we have a 5 here, it would not be able to go there. So we know that because we cannot have that, we can no longer have a 1 here. So we can place a little X there now. Maybe let's try the same thing, but with this spot, can we have a 4, 6, 7, 8 here? We'd have to place a 4 in the middle, which is possible. We would have to have a 9 and a 1. Actually, before going too far into that, there's something else I noticed that's more useful. We can no longer have a 9 here, because this gap is only 3. So we can't actually place our 9 right there. Sorry about that. My roommate was asking me a question. I had to go answer him real quick, but we're back. So we had just placed this 9 here, and we can place a little X there. So we know we have to have a 1 somewhere over here. Let's look at this 4, 6, 7, 8 again. Nope. Wrong number. So if we have this 4, 6, 7, 8, we will have to place a 4 in the middle. So let's start with this spot right here. So if we have that, this 7, 8 blocks it from here. So we'd have to place a 6 there and a 7, 8, which does not work. So we can't have a 4 there. Now, if we have a 4 here, we'd have to have a 6 here. And we would have to put the 8 here and the 7 over here. So, as far as I can tell, that is a possibility. Well, actually, if we have an 8 here, we would have to place a 7 there. And if we have a 7 there, we would have to have a 4 here. So we actually cannot have the 8 here. So to run back over that, we said if we have a 4 here, the 7, 8 blocks this spot, which brings us the 6. The non-consecutive rule places an 8 here and a 7 here based on these numbers. Now if we had this 8 here, we'd have a 7 here. And looking at that combination, we would need a 4 there. And that's 2 4s in the same box, and that's not allowed. So we can actually go ahead and rule out this one, since we we know that we had to have 4 in the middle to block one of these for the consecutive roll. And the 4 can be in either of the middle spots. So let's go ahead and place an X there and a 1 right here, which gives us our 9 here. And we know we can't have a 1 there anymore. So our 1 must go right here. This helps us out up here. We can block out a 1 and a 9 from all of those places. And what else can we do now? Let's go ahead and fill in this 8 and 3 again, just so we don't forget those. I'm going to go ahead and fill in up top where we can have 1s and 9s, because I think that's where we need to go next. With this blocked out now, we can have a 0, where we have the 0 roll up here, so we have to have a 1 or a 9 there. And we can only place 2 or 3 numbers for the 11 clue. However, we have this gap of 2, we can place 1 there. But if we have a gap of 3, we can't place 1 there, so we know it has to go there, leaving another 1 in one of these 2 positions. Now, if we look at this 20 clue, it is possible with a 5, 7, 8 to do this. However, we would have to place the 5 in the middle of the 7 and the 8. So we could not place it there because there's already a 5 here. So we can actually roll out this spot with our 20 clue and say no 5, 7, 8, as well as place a 1 or a 9 here. And looking back at this, we clearly can't place a 20 in this cell. So we're going to have a 1 or a 9 over here. And looking at this, we can have a gap of 4 or a 5. And 5's not possible. So we will have to have a 9 here because there's already a 1 in column 7. So let's go ahead and place this 9, a 1 here, a 9 here, 9 here, a 1 here, and a 1 here, just using Sudoku rules. And now we have all 1s and 9 placed. So I'm going to go ahead and clean things up a little bit and remove the X's from the grid and start to go back over some of these. So this 20, we know it's a gap of 4, so let's remove this combination. This 11 is a gap of 2, so it's either a 4, 7 in any order, or it is a 3, 8 in this order. This 12 clue is a gap of 3, so it's either a 2, 3, 7, which we would have to place the 7 in the middle, but there's already a 7 here, so we can't have that. It's actually a 2, 4, 6. Now, the 2 could not go here because of this 1. It could not go here because of this 1. So we would have to place the 2 here. And the 6 blocks out that, so we have a 4 here and a 6 here. Let's look at this 25 clue for a second and see if there's anything useful we can find from it. Now, it must include a 5. has to go here or over here, so we're probably going to switch to a different clue. I'm actually going to mark all of these 1s and 9s because it helps when looking at the clues to have them colored in so you can see that these are the spots that we are looking in between. So we have this clue already filled in. This one's done. This one, we are still unsure if that's a 7-8 or if this is a 3 or a 4. Now, maybe let's look at this 20 clue. There's a lot going on with it. Many combinations to check, but one thing we can narrow down right away is that we cannot have a 2 here because of this 2. We can't have a 2 here because of this 2 or because of this 1. So we can instantly rule out all combinations containing a 2, which is very helpful. Now, this 3, 4, 5, 8, we have 3 consecutive digits, and what we know about that is that we would have to place the 8 in the middle of one of these 2. So the only possible place for an 8 is here, because this spot is blocked out by this 8. So if we have an 8 here, that means we have a 4, 7 here. We'll keep that in mind as we look at the other stuff. So we would have to block out 3, 4, 5. So let's see. If we had a 3 here, it would place a 4 here. Maybe that's not the best place to start. Something I should actually note first. Looking back at this, if we do have an 8 here, we will have to place a we could not do a 7 or an 8, so we would have to place a 4 here and a 7 here. So let's look back at it now. If we have an 8 here, we would need a 4 over here and a 3 and 5 up here, but the 5 would go there and the 3 would go there. So that is a possibility. Let me check this column to make sure that it doesn't break when using that. So we can place a 7 and a 5 in either of those spots. So yeah, it doesn't break. So maybe let's see if we can break this combination instead. So a 3, 4, 6, 7. We have 2 pairs of non-consecutive, or 2 pairs of consecutive digits. Now, what that means is we would either have to place, let's see if we have any limitations first. So you'd have 7s in here, or 4s in here, 3s in here, and the 6 would have to go over here. So let's mark that first, because I think 6 is the most limited there. If we have a 6 in one of these spots, that means our 7 could not go in either of those spots. It would have to go over here. and it would have to be separated either by one of those two spots, or by two, like this. However, if we separated it by two, it would break because of the 3 and the 4. So we either have a 6, 7 there, or a 7, 6 there. So let's see what would happen if they were in these spots. If we have a 6 and a 7 here, we would have a 4 here, and a 7 here. So now our 3 would have to go here, and our 4 would have to go here. So that's not breaking any rules that I can tell. So that is well, actually it is breaking rules. Looking back at our 5 again, that helped us narrow down something earlier down here. I can't remember quite what, but it's helping us up here again. We could not place the 5 there because of this 4. So we can say that this is not a valid placement of 3, 4, 6, and 7. So there's only one other placement to test, and if that breaks, then we know it's a 3, 4, 5, 8. So we just tested, let me look back so I don't accidentally look at the same one. We tested 6 there, 7 there. Well, what if we had instead a 6 here and a 7 here? So we would need a 3 and a 4. This 3 says we would have to place the 4 here. And we would have to place a 3 over here then. Now let's see how that affects this. We cannot place a 4 here, which means we cannot place a 7 here. And I believe these are both still valid, but let's check the other numbers. We would still need a 5 over here and a 7 or 8 over here. That does not break anything. So yeah, I think this is a valid combination, so unfortunately we did not narrow down which of the two it can be, but that's okay. At least we discovered a little bit. They are sort of restricted, so if we do ever get something placed up here, we can go back and say that, we already know a little bit about that spot. Maybe let's look at some of these columns that have a lot already filled in. For example, this column, we still need a 3 somewhere. We still need a 5 somewhere and a 6 somewhere. Well, we can't place the 5 and the 6 next to each other. So we know that we have to have a 3 somewhere down here. However, it cannot be right next to this 2, so we do actually have a 3 down here. And a 5 or 6 here. As well as up there. So if we have 3, 5 there, just to recheck 5, we'd have place an 8 in the middle to block something. So the 8 goes here. And then we'd have a 3 and a 4 left. If we had an 8 there, it would be 7, 8 are gone from there. This would be a 7. And we could have a 3 or a 4 in either of those. So yeah, let's not go down that rabbit hole again. That's not going to be useful. But we should note that those are a 5-6 pair. Now, this 3 tells us we cannot have a 3 there. We cannot have a 3 here because of this 5-6. We also cannot have a 3 here because of this 2. So we can't place a 3 right there. Well, now that we know we have the 3, we may as well mark the positions for these two combinations. So we could have a 3, 4, 5, 8, which would be a 3. The 4 and the 5 would have to be split by an 8. So the 8 would go there. Rule out the 7, 8. And the 3, 4. 3, 5, 8, 4. Or we would have a 6, a 3, 6, 4, 7, leaving us with a 3, 6, 3, 6, 4, 7. With a 3 here and an 8 there. So it's actually interesting. Now we know that we have a 4-8 pair here, meaning that we have another pair somewhere here. So what would that be? That would be a 5 and a 7. Now, I don't think we can determine what exactly that is yet, but it's good to know whenever you find a pair, so they come in useful later. Let's see if we can use it right now, actually. So, just to make sure, yeah, we need a 5. One of these spots. Okay. So, let's see what happens if we have a 5 here. That becomes a 5. That becomes a 7. That becomes a 6. Now if we had a 7, no, I don't think that's gonna work. I don't wanna go too deep into that. I was trying to see if it would force, if one of those would force a 4 or 5 here, or a 4, 5, or 8, 7 there, but I don't think it does, so we're not gonna get lost with all those details. That won't lead us anywhere. So we have a 5, 6, or a 7 that need to go here with this 5, 6, 7 triple. And how about down here? So we didn't know a 5 across from each other. We already have a 3 in there. That means we also need a 7 for sure. So a 5 would have to go one of those. A 7 would have to go in one of those two. We know our 3 position. So what else would we have? We would have either an 8 and a 2, which would be a 2, 8. Or we have a 3 and a 4. Or no, sorry, a 4 and a 6. Which would be a 4 and a 6. So no matter what, we can only have a 5 here. Well, apparently not. I must have messed something up. So let's look back at that. What did I go over? 3, 6, and 4 in this column. So we can't have a 4 or a 6 here. I think we can have a 7 there as well. So that's where we went wrong. But that's still a little bit useful. I always play with the rule telling me, like, if I put a 5 here, I would like to know that's wrong. Because I'm just doing this casually, so I don't care how long it takes. But at the end, I would like to not go and place my last number and realize I messed up somewhere 15 minutes in after working for over an hour on it. So I just leave that on to tell me that no, you are not doing this correctly. You gotta rethink what you just did. That being said, I do always find a logical reason behind my note replacement. So I'm sure this is a 7 here because it told me it's not a 5, but I'm not going to do that. I need to figure out why that's the case before I go and just throw in numbers. So let's keep looking. We have either a 2, 8 or a 4, 6 down here. So let's see what would happen if we had a 4, 6. So we would have a 4 here, a 6 here, putting a 5 there, which would put a 7 here, and a 5 here. But going back over that, 4, 6, 5, 7, 5, that would put a 4 and a 5 next to each other. So we actually cannot have a 4 here. This has to be a 2, 8, which gives us a 7, 5, 7, 6, and you can see our pencil markings are coming in useful that we made earlier. We can just go ahead and fill all these in. This can't be an 8 because of the 7, so that is a 4, a 4, 7, and an 8. And now we're getting a lot closer. So we need a 4 in here still. And we can place the last 4 up here, as well as say that we've used all these rules, so we no longer need to have them. We've actually used all of those rules, so it looks like it's just Sudoku from here on out. So looking at these 2 6s, they block 7 in one of these two spots, or 6 in one of these two spots. We actually need to place a 6 in there, so that forces one down here. Now we still need a 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8. We finished with our 1s, our 6s, and our 9s. So, let's see. Over here in box 9, a 3 cannot go here because of the 2 and the 4 and the 4. The 3 is blocked out of here, so we have a 3 down here. That gives us a 3 up here. Now, looking at our 4s, we have 4s over here. All of these limit 4 down to this single spot. And that was actually our last 4. So, got that out of the way. Let's see about our 5. We can place a 5 here. I need to place 1 here still. And these 4 and the 6 block the 5 from there. So it does have to go here and fill in our pencil markings. Place a 3 here and there. And we're basically wrapped up with this now. Place a 8 here and a 7 here. And an 8 over here. An 8 here. An 8 here. And we can place our last 7. And our very last number is a 5. So we just completed puzzle number 31. There's 8-star puzzle, and they go up to 10 stars in difficulty, so it's not surprising it took a little over an hour to complete, although I did take a couple quick breaks, so it's probably closer to just about an hour. And so that's going to do it for this video. If you guys enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. And I will see you guys in the next one.